They say temptation doesn't come crashing into your life like a wrecking ball. No, it creeps in, slowly, like a shadow at dusk. At first, it's just a whisper, an innocent thought that passes through your mind so quickly, you almost don't notice it. But then, it lingers. It stays. And before you even realize what's happening, it's inside you. Rooted. Growing. Taking up space in places it doesn't belong. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who would stray. I never thought I'd look at someone else and feel something I wasn't supposed to feel. But life has a cruel way of proving us wrong, doesn't it? One minute, you think you know yourself. The next, you're staring at your reflection in the mirror, wondering who the hell is looking back at you. I should have known. The first time I saw him, I should have known. There was something about him, something dangerous. Not in the way of a villain in a movie. No, it was subtler than that. He didn't do anything. He didn't say anything inappropriate. But there was something in his presence, in the way he carried himself. In the way he looked at me, like he saw me. And when you've spent years feeling invisible, feeling unseen, feeling like just a shadow of the woman you used to be, that kind of gaze, that kind of attention, it's intoxicating. It's terrifying. I told myself it was nothing. A silly thought. A moment of weakness. But that's the thing about temptation. It never stops at just a thought. It waits. It waits for the cracks in your life to widen. It waits for the right moment to slip through. And when it does, when it finally gets in, it doesn't just change the way you feel, it changes who you are. I should have walked away. I should have closed my eyes, turned my back, done anything but let it happen. But I didn't. And now? Now, I live with the weight of knowing that one decision, one moment, can unravel everything you thought was real. This is my story. A story of desire, of guilt, of crossing a line I can never uncross. And if you think you know how it ends, trust me, you don't. I've been married for 10 years. 10 long, predictable, steady years. My husband, let's call him Mark, is a good man. A provider. Responsible. Respected. On paper, he's everything I could have asked for. But in reality, he's a ghost in our home. Present, but not really here. At some point, I stopped waiting up for him. Stopped expecting him to look at me the way he used to. It happened gradually, the way things always do when they fall apart. First, it was the late nights at the office. Then, the missed calls. Then, the silence between us became louder than our conversations ever were. He doesn't hurt me. He doesn't cheat on me, at least. I don't think he does. He just doesn't see me anymore. And maybe that's worse. And then, there's him. I don't even remember the first time I really noticed him. I mean, of course, I saw him when he moved in. He was polite, charming in that effortless kind of way. Said he was new to the city, needed a quiet place to stay while he figured things out. My husband barely acknowledged his existence, just handed him the lease, and went back to whatever urgent business was more important than us. But me? I noticed him. Maybe not in that way at first. He was young, too young, I told myself. Early 20s, full of that easy confidence that only comes with youth. He had this way of moving, like he belonged anywhere he stepped. Strong hands. Warm eyes. A deep voice that made you lean in just a little closer when he spoke. I sound ridiculous, don't I? Like some pathetic housewife with nothing better to do than admire the new tenant. And maybe that's exactly what I was. Because the truth is, I started looking for reasons to be around him. It started small. A simple, good morning, that felt warmer than it should. A moment of it was nothing really. The sink had been dripping for weeks and Mark, surprise, surprise, never had time to fix it. So when he offered, I let him. It was innocent. Harmless. Except it didn't feel harmless. I remember watching his hands, the way they moved with certainty. Strong, capable. The kind of hands that do things. The kind of hands that hadn't touched me in, God, I don't even know how long. And then it happened. The moment that changed everything. It was just a glance. A second, maybe two. But in that moment, something shifted. I felt it. And I know he did too. I don't know when I started staring. I don't know why. But I couldn't look away. The way his hands moved, steady, sure, confident, it was mesmerizing. He worked like he belonged there, like fixing things came as naturally to him as breathing. And for some reason, that did something to me. It's just admiration, she thinks. Nothing more. Almost done. Whoever installed this did a terrible job. Why does this feel different? Why does it feel like he's giving me something I've been missing? Thank you. That smile, it shouldn't make me feel this way. It's just a smile. But when was the last time someone smiled at me like that? Oh God, what's happening to me? It was nothing. It was just a thank you. Just a smile. Just a moment. I shouldn't be thinking about him. I love my husband. I do. Don't I? Are you coming home tonight? This is what our marriage has become. A waiting game. A series of unanswered messages, of missed calls, of empty spaces where love used to live. You've been working all night. You should take a break. In a minute. When did I stop being a wife and start feeling like a ghost? It's not like I did anything wrong. It was just admiration. That's all. Nothing more. I should stop this. I should push these thoughts away before they become something more. But I don't want to. I tell myself it's nothing. Just harmless moments. Just passing time. Just curiosity. But deep down, I know better. I feel it. Growing. Spreading. Taking root in places it doesn't belong. It started small. A glance that lasted too long. A smile that felt warmer than it should. The brush of an arm in the hallway, the slightest hesitation before stepping aside. And then, before I even realized it, I was waiting for those moments. Craving them. What the hell is wrong with me? I should stop. I should close the door on this before it turns into something I can't control. But instead, I find myself standing outside more often. Lingering. Watching. Waiting. And then, one afternoon, it happens. The heat is thick, wrapping around everything like a second skin. The house is quiet, my husband gone as always, the loneliness pressing in like a weight I can't shake. I step outside for air, and that's when I see him. He's in the backyard, near the shed, shirtless. Fixing something, I don't even know what. I should look away. I should. But I don't. My eyes trace the lines of his back, the way the sun catches on his skin, the easy strength in his movements. I tell myself I'm just observing. Just noticing. But noticing shouldn't feel like this. Noticing shouldn't make my breath hitch. And then, he turns. His eyes find mine. Hold them. And in that split second, something shifts. It's subtle, unspoken, but I feel it. The air tightens between us, charged with something I don't want to name. Then, he smiles. Just a small, knowing curve of his lips. My stomach flips. Heat rushes up my neck, burning, humiliating, thrilling. Oh God. He saw me. He knows I was looking. I turn quickly, heart hammering, rushing inside before I can see if he's still watching me. I press my back against the door, eyes shut tight, as if that can erase the moment. As if that can undo the way my body reacted. What the hell am I doing? I tell myself it was just an accident. Just a look. It meant nothing. But the next time I see him, he smiles again. And this time, I know it wasn't just in my head. Something has changed. Something I can't ignore. He's teasing me now. Little things. A smirk. A joke. A moment of eye contact that stretches too long. And the worst part? I like it. I scold myself. I lecture myself. I repeat the same words over and over. I'm a married woman. I love my husband. This is wrong. This is wrong. But then why do I keep finding reasons to be around him? Why do I bring him lemonade on hot afternoons, pretending it's just a kind gesture? Why do I ask him to grab something from the high shelf when I could easily get a step tool? Why do I linger outside, hoping, needing to see him? Why do I feel more alive in those fleeting moments with him than I have in years? That night, as I lay beside my husband, staring at the ceiling, I whisper a question into the darkness. Why do I want this? Because it makes me feel alive. And I don't want to let it go. The rain taps softly against the window, a quiet rhythm, steady, unbothered. It doesn't know what's happening inside. It doesn't know that tonight is different. That tonight, I've stopped pretending. Mark is out of town. He didn't call before he left. He didn't ask if I'd be okay. He never does. And I never tell him that I'm not. The house feels bigger without him here. Emptier. But I don't feel lonely. Not tonight. Tonight, I feel something else. Something I don't want to name. I pour myself a glass of wine, take a slow sip, and stare at my phone. My fingers hover over the screen, my thoughts racing, warring. I should put it down. I should go to bed. But instead, I type the words before I can stop myself. Hey, you up? The second I send it, my pulse quickens. I tell myself it's nothing. Just small talk. Just a friendly message. But my body betrays me. I'm holding my breath. I'm waiting, hoping. His reply comes quickly. Yeah, what's up? I should leave it there. But I don't. My fingers move, almost as if they have a will of their own. Come over for a drink? I shouldn't have sent that. I know what it sounds like. I know what it means. But I don't take it back. A long pause. My heart hammers in my chest. Be there in 5. A sharp inhale. A rush of something, excitement, fear, anticipation, swirls inside me. It's too late to undo this now. And worse. I don't want to. The knock comes sooner than I expect. I freeze, wine glass halfway to my lips, my breath caught in my throat. I should let it sit. I should let him turn away, let the moment pass like it never happened. But I don't. I walk to the door, each step heavier than the last. When I open it, he's there. Standing in the dim light of the porch, damp from the rain, looking at me like he already knows. Knows what this is. Knows what's about to happen. I swallow hard, step aside, let him in. I tell myself this is just a drink. Just conversation. Just a way to pass the time. But even as I think it, I feel the truth curling in my stomach. I pour the wine. My hands aren't steady. I pretend not to notice. He takes the glass from me, and our fingers brush, just for a second, just long enough to send a shiver through me. It's nothing. Just an accident. Just skin against skin. But neither of us moves. A slow inhale. My own skin feels foreign, like I don't belong inside it anymore. I wake up alone. The sheets beside me are cool, untouched, just like they always are. But this time, it's different. This time, I don't feel abandoned. I feel guilty. Guilt is supposed to feel sharp, isn't it? Like a knife twisting in your gut, a burning in your chest? But this is something else. It's not sharp at all. It's soft. It's creeping. It settles into me like a second skin, a quiet whisper reminding me of what I've done. Of what I can't undo. I close my eyes. I tell myself to forget. But all I see is him. The way he looked at me before he kissed me. The way his hands felt, strong, certain, claiming me like I was something worth holding onto. The way my body responded before my mind could catch up. The way I let it happen. I press my palms to my face, willing the memories away. But they don't leave. I should feel ashamed. I do feel ashamed. But beneath it, beneath the guilt and the regret and the fear, there's something else. Something dangerous. I don't just regret it. I want it to happen again. I don't see him that morning. I don't go looking. I can't. I avoid the kitchen, the backyard, any space where he might be. My body is tense, bracing, waiting. But nothing happens. No knock on the door. No text. No accidental run-in. Maybe that should be a relief. Maybe that should make it easier to pretend. But instead, it leaves an ache in my chest, deep and hollow, like something is missing. I try to distract myself. I shower, scrubbing too hard, as if I can wash away last night. I pick up my phone and stare at my husband's contact, hesitating before typing a message. Good morning. Hope your trip is going well. I stare at the screen, waiting. 5 minutes. 10. 20. No response. Of course. He's busy. He's always busy. And for the first time, that excuse doesn't comfort me. It just makes me angry. I catch my reflection in the hallway mirror and flinch. I look the same, but I don't feel the same. My own body, my own face, everything feels unfamiliar. Altered. Marked by something no one else can see. But can they see it? Is it written on my skin? Is it in my eyes? My mind spins, restless. What if my husband comes home and looks at me differently? What if he senses it? Smells it? What if the guilt is obvious, pouring off me in waves? What if the tenant? What if he knows I regret it? Except, do I? I shake my head, exhaling sharply, trying to push the thoughts away. But my stomach is tight, my hands are unsteady. I need normal. I need routine. I need to pretend. That night, when my husband calls, I answer too quickly. My voice is too bright, too eager, the way it used to be before I stopped trying. Hey, how's your trip? He talks, but I barely hear him. I nod at the right moments, murmur responses, tell him I miss him even though we both know it's a lie. I say I love you before he hangs up, but the words feel empty, like something I've borrowed from someone else's life. When I set the phone down, my hands are shaking. I shouldn't feel relieved that he didn't notice anything wrong. But I do. I see him the next day. Or maybe he sees me first. I'm in the garden, pretending to be busy, when I feel it, that awareness. That prickle on my skin that tells me he's near before I even look up. And when I do, he's just there. Standing on his porch, leaning against the railing, watching me. I expect something. A smirk. A knowing look. Something to acknowledge what happened. But there's nothing. He lifts a hand in a casual wave. Morning, he says, like it's any other day. Like last night never happened. I nod back, force a smile, choke out a hello. My heart is racing, but his face is unreadable. Calm. Detached. Is he pretending? Or does he really not care? The thought stings more than it should. I drop my gaze, turn back to the flowers I'm not really tending to, gripping the soil too tightly between my fingers. This is how it's going to be then. We'll act normal. We'll act like nothing happened. We'll act like I didn't let him touch me, like I didn't crave it, like I'm not still feeling it now, hours later, days later. I tell myself this is what I wanted. That this is good. That this is safe. Then why does it feel like I'm suffocating? That night, when I close my eyes, I expect the guilt to be there, waiting for me. But it's not guilt that haunts me. It's him. His hands. His mouth. The way his breath felt against my skin. I tell myself I won't think about it again. I tell myself I won't let it happen again. But I already know the truth. This isn't over. I tell myself it was just one night. One night. One mistake. One lapse in judgment. But if that were true, then why am I still thinking about it? Why does it still live inside me, pressing against my ribs, whispering in the quiet moments when no one is watching? I should hate myself. I do hate myself. But not enough. Not enough to stop wanting it. Not enough to stop reliving it every time I close my eyes. Every stolen breath. Every touch. The way his lips hovered over mine before I gave in. The heat of his skin beneath my fingertips. The way I didn't hesitate. The way I didn't even think before I let it happen. And the worst part? I don't regret it the way I should. I wake up every morning with guilt lodged deep in my chest, a dull ache that lingers long after the night has ended. But it doesn't erase the desire. If anything, it feeds it. Because now I know. Now I know what it feels like to be wanted. To be touched. To be seen. I tell myself it was just physical. That it was about the heat of the moment, the loneliness, the neglect. But that's another lie I tell myself to sleep at night. Because the truth is, I miss the way he looked at me. Not just with hunger, not just with need, but with recognition. Like I wasn't invisible. Like I wasn't just someone's wife, someone's afterthought. Like I was something more. I haven't felt like that in years. Maybe longer. And now that I have, how do I go back to feeling nothing at all? I try to throw myself into routine, into normalcy, into anything that will make me forget. But normal doesn't feel the same anymore. It feels forced, fake, a mask slipping over a face I don't recognize. I go through the motions. I cook. I clean. I smile at my husband when he finally comes home, kiss his cheek like nothing has changed. But inside, everything is different. Because now, every time he touches me, I wonder if he can feel it. If he can sense it in my skin, in my breath, in the way my body stiffens under his hands. I wonder if he knows. And if he doesn't? Why doesn't he? Why doesn't he notice the way I hesitate before kissing him? Why doesn't he question the way I suddenly reach for him more, as if trying to erase what I've done? Why doesn't he see the way my hands shake when I press them against his chest? How is it that a man I barely knew could see me more clearly in one night than my own husband has in years? I hate myself for thinking it. But that doesn't make it untrue. The question gnaws at me, lingers at the edge of my mind, an itch I can't scratch. Do I tell him? Would he forgive me? Would he even care? Or would he just be embarrassed, angry that I made him look like a fool, not that I broke something between us? And what if I told him and he still didn't fight for me? What if he just let me go? Would that hurt more? I imagine the conversation. The way his face would change, the way his jaw would tighten, the way he'd demand answers I don't have. I imagine the silence that would follow. The heavy, suffocating silence of a marriage unraveling. I don't know if I can bear that. I don't know if I want to. So I don't tell him. Not yet. I could end it. Right now. Walk away. Cut all ties, pretend it never happened. Pretend it wasn't the best and worst thing that's ever happened to me. I could avoid him, keep my distance, refuse to meet his eyes when we pass each other in the driveway. I could pretend I don't feel the way my body responds when he's near. I could pretend I don't want more. But I'd be lying to myself again. Because the truth is, when I see him, I don't feel shame. I feel anticipation. I don't avoid him. I seek him out. I tell myself it's just curiosity, just closure, just a way to convince myself that this was a mistake. But deep down, I already know. This isn't over. The decision is made before I even realize it. I'm outside, pretending to water the plants, pretending not to care, pretending not to feel the way the air shifts when he steps outside his door. And then, suddenly, I'm looking at him. And he's looking at me. And we both know. No words are spoken. They don't need to be. He tilts his head slightly, the ghost of a smirk on his lips, and I know what he's thinking. I know he's wondering if I'm going to run this time, if I'm going to keep pretending. I should. I don't. Instead, I take a step toward him. This is the moment where I choose. Where I decide what kind of woman I am. Where I either walk away or let myself fall deeper. And as I take another step closer, as his lips part slightly like he's waiting for me to say something, anything, I already know. I'm not walking away. So, now you know. Now you know how it started. How it happened. How I let it happen. How I made choices I swore I never would. How I crossed lines I can't uncross. How I became someone I don't recognize. And yet, I don't know if I regret it. That's the worst part, isn't it? Not the betrayal. Not the guilt. But the fact that, deep down, in the quiet spaces where the truth can't hide, I know I'd do it all over again. Because now, I can't pretend anymore. Now, I know what it feels like to be seen. To be wanted. To be alive. And once you've tasted that, how do you go back to starving? So tell me, if you were in my position, would you tell the truth? Would you sit your husband down, look him in the eye, and confess everything? Would you risk it all for honesty? For absolution? Would you take the chance that maybe, just maybe, he'd fight for you? That he'd finally see what he's been blind to all these years? Or would you bury it? Would you lock it away, deep in the quiet corners of your mind, never to be spoken of again? Would you carry the secret like a weight, heavy, but yours alone to bear? Would you convince yourself it never really mattered, that it was just a moment, just a mistake? Would you choose to forget? Or would you do what I did? Would you choose neither? Would you choose to let it happen again? Tell me in the comments. What would you do? Leave a comment below. Have you ever faced temptation like this? Let's talk. And if you think this was the end of the story, you'd be wrong. Subscribe for more shocking real-life stories. You never know what you'll hear next. Some mistakes fade over time. Others change you forever. I used to believe that guilt was the worst thing a person could feel. That the weight of shame, of regret, of knowing you've broken something that can never be fixed, that was the worst kind of suffering. But I was wrong. The worst thing is knowing you'd do it all over again. I look at myself now and I wonder, who am I? Am I still the same woman who once vowed loyalty to a man who barely looks at me anymore? Am I still the wife who's spent years waiting, hoping, starving for something that was never going to come? Or am I someone else now? Because when I look in the mirror, I don't see the woman I used to be. There's something in my eyes that wasn't there before. Something darker. Something hungry. I used to think love was supposed to be simple. That if two people promised forever, it meant something. But forever isn't built on promises. It's built on effort. On choice. And sometimes people stop choosing each other. That's what no one tells you. That love doesn't end with a bang. It ends with neglect. With silence. With nights spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is really all there is. And when you've spent too long feeling empty, temptation doesn't feel like betrayal. It feels like survival. I don't know what happens next. Maybe this ends badly. Maybe I lose everything. Maybe one day, I wake up and realize that the guilt finally outweighs the desire. Or maybe I stop fighting it altogether. Maybe this isn't a mistake at all. Some mistakes fade over time. Others change you forever.